Hello, I'm meteorologist Marshall Hello, I'm meteorologist Hello, I'm meteorologist is Hello, I'm meteorologist Hello, I'm meteorologist for that sort of levels itself out here in a minute. In the meantime, hope you're safe tonight. We are keeping an eye on those storms mainly in northern Ohio, and those have already had a history of very heavy rain and some lightning and thunder that could also cause some issues for us. There's also some very gusty winds with these. So you can kind of see a couple of things here. One, there's a cluster that's coming through Cleveland right now. There was a stronger one earlier. And you see how this line comes all the way out here past Champaign. That is roughly where the cold front is right now. So you have two directions happening. One is this easterly direction that the storms are tracking along the actual cold front. So they're going along the front this way. The front itself is moving south. So that is going to take all of this eventually and bring it down this way during the night tonight. So that's why Columbus is not out of the woods on this one. We're going to have to keep an eye on things too, because as this slides farther south, that's going to become an issue for us. So here's that's going to become an issue for us. So that's going to become an issue for us. So that's where we are here at almost 50 to 70 miles per hour. So this line right here, see how those just come racing across I-75? Some of those have been moving really, really quickly. And because of that, that also helps to generate some of the very strong wind gusts that go along with these. At this moment, there are some watches and warnings that we need to be aware of. This particular batch in Bucyrus, Mansfield, a little bit of Morrow County there, is in effect because some of these storms have a history of producing some very gusty winds. So here is the one for parts of Crawford, Richland, Morrow, just barely Marion County. That's going to be in effect until 9:30 tonight. Those storms are tracking a little bit to the southeast, and so that's why those you see the let me put a pointer on that. See this right here, the polygon sort of spreads out as it comes this direction. That's because some of these could go a little bit to the northeast and a little bit to the southeast. So the polygon covers most of that as the storms move to the east. But the important part is you still have a chance for these thunderstorms to produce these very gusty winds. So that's why we're watching a lot of that. Now, the other part of this, you see what's in pink here. The pink is the thunderstorm watch, which means conditions are favorable. And that is in effect, it's been extended to 11 o'clock now. So that obviously includes parts of Marion, Morrow, Knox counties up into Richland and Crawford, Wyandotte counties, a little bit of Hardin County. So that is going to continue as long as some of these storms are moving through here. And they're likely to stick around for a lot of the night. Columbus itself is okay at the moment, but by the time we get to 10, 11 o'clock tonight, more of that's going to be moving a little bit farther to the south. So it's going to take a while for those storms to move from up here and eventually down into the Columbus metro area. So give it some time. It's on the way, and those will continue overnight tonight. So by the time they make it down into Delaware and Franklin counties, then you're looking at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning that they're still going. So it's going to be here for a number of hours during the overnight tonight. So say they get here around 11 o'clock, they're likely to continue into 4 and 5 in the morning. We're going to have to track these through the night tonight because this is going to be a strong system. Let me show you what the models are predicting. Here's what it looks like at the moment. And actually, this is the 8 o'clock scenario, and it's got a pretty good handle on at least where things stand at the moment. And you see how that slowly but surely makes its way a little bit farther south. So by 10 and 11 o'clock, here we are getting into parts of the northern metro area for Columbus, and then still farther south during the next few hours. So, again, we're looking at 11 o'clock or so, and it's getting into the metro, and then it's still sinking a little farther south. And so during the overnight hours tonight is why we're going to really have to keep an eye on some of these. So then it kind of holds along the I-70 corridor for a while. That's going to get us into the morning commute. And after that, it starts sinking a little bit farther to the south and gets into southern Ohio. So this is going to be a very slow progression on this one, and we're not really going to have to, we're not going to be able to leave it alone for a while. We're going to have to watch what's happening. The northern part of the state has a chance for scattered strong storms. Columbus down to Circleville and Athens, you're looking at an isolated strong storm during the overnight hours. And that is, again, going to be, I think for the Columbus metro, you're looking at probably 11 o'clock to 4 in the morning. So that's why this is going to be an overnight situation that you need to get your phone charged. Make sure you've got, we would recommend the Ohio Weather app, but whatever app you're using that can get you those watches and warnings while you're asleep, make sure that your phone is charged to do that. You get the volume turned up so that you can get those watches and warnings. So this is an alert overnight tonight. It's going to include the Columbus metro area. We're going to get going around, I think for Columbus, it's closer to 11 o'clock and then into the early overnight hours. These have a history of heavy rain. There are flash flood warnings in the Cleveland metro area right now because of the heavy rain that has come through there. There is the potential for damaging winds. These storms have a history of 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts, so that can do some damage. There have been a bunch of reports of hail, most of it very small, pea-sized, but there easily could get some larger hailstones out of that as we go through the night tonight, and can't rule out the possibility of tornadoes. We've had a few tornado warnings already in parts of Ohio. Had some on the east side of Cleveland earlier this evening, and we've also had some in western Ohio, just barely outside of the Kenton area. So it was getting very close to central Ohio for that. So for all of these reasons, this is an alert night, and we're going to keep an eye on this. Now, here's the next part. This goes beyond tonight. So from now all the way through Wednesday, what we're looking at is the potential for upwards of 1.5 to 2.5 inches of rain. Now, when that happens, water's got to go somewhere. So in most cases, as it runs off, it's going to get into those storm drains and eventually into the rivers. The rivers are already running very high. So if we add a couple more inches of rain to this, those rivers are going to come up even faster, and that's why there's the potential for some flooding. The other part of that is even if it's not raining in your area, the water may be coming from somewhere else. For example, you get all of this rain up here in Marion, it runs into the Scioto, and that's going to run through Columbus and Griggs and all of that, all the way down through Circleville, Chillicothe, and down to Portsmouth, where it empties into the Ohio River. So the rain that's in Marion will affect Circleville and Chillicothe in the future. So that's why even if it's not your area that ends up with the very heavy rain, we still have to watch what's happening in other places. So tonight, we're going to call 59 the low. This is the weird part of this, is that this is going to get cooler tomorrow. So what happens is we'll hit our high at around midnight, and temperatures will fall from there. So by sunrise, we're close to 59 degrees, but the temperatures will keep falling then for the rest of the day tomorrow. So the 68 is the high at midnight, falling into the upper 50s by sunrise, which is the number you had before, and then continuing to fall during the day. Showers and thunderstorms will be likely again while you're tooling around during the day tomorrow. Then we do it again on Thursday. Thursday, showers and storms, wind gusts again because we still have the same front sticking around, but the high gets to around 50 degrees. And we're in this pattern where it's one system after another, but they just keep dragging fronts through here. So it's going to keep us wet for a while. So we're looking at falling temperatures tomorrow. It's summer-like on Thursday. Friday, we're back to spring with some scattered showers and thunderstorms, and then more showers and storms on Saturday. We finally get a cold front that comes through here to cool things off Saturday, which means we're cooler on Sunday. That's Easter. So sunrise services for Easter Sunday may need to plan ahead for some wet conditions, but it will be cooler on Sunday with a high of only around 57 degrees. So we're watching a whole lot of things tonight. We've got the potential for all sorts of things to happen. And so that's part of the reason why we've got to stay on top of this. Right now, the only thunderstorm warnings that we have are in parts of Crawford and Richland counties, just a little bit of Morrow County up near, Galleon. So the Galleon's right there on the line. So, yeah, you're probably included in part of that. And that is because that's a storm that has produced 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So as we go through the next few hours and that continues, we may see more of these warnings issued. So that's why we've got to stay weather aware. All right, let's see what we're talking about down here in the comments. Lots of folks have questions, most likely. What time is it going to get to Columbus? Well, I think probably we're aiming for that 11 o'clock-ish. So it gets into Delaware first and then makes its way down into Columbus. So I think 11 o'clock-ish, it's pretty close to the metro area, and then it's moving through here for multiple hours during the overnight hours. Central Ohio going to get anything? Yep, I think so. I think it's happening out there right now. Tara wants to know, it looks like Athens is going to get it this time. I think you will, but it's going to take some time. I think Athens is likely to get more of this by tomorrow morning. You'll get some of it during the overnight hours, but more of that will roll in by early in the morning. Andrew's getting thunder in Mount Vernon. It's been a little rough there in the last few days because you had a tornado touchdown in Knox County a few days ago. Michelle says there's lots of lightning and thunder happening in Crawford County. That's not surprising. In fact, let me put let me go back up here and put some radar on that, because this will give you an idea of that lightning and thunder. Look at that. Yeah, that's why you're hearing thunder in Bucyrus. There it is. So that's going to keep that going for a while. It's got a nice little bow on it. You can see where this sort of pokes out here. It's sort of a rounded edge. We call that a bow. And along that edge, we can get some pretty strong wind gusts. So be on the lookout in Crestline and down here in Galleon, parts of northern Morrow County. You may end up with some pretty strong wind gusts as that one comes through there and gives you some issues. But yeah, lots of lightning and thunder to go with that. Katrina says, looks like we may have a wild, severe weather season. You know, it certainly feels that way, doesn't it? Oh, look, they just extended that. So they've moved this now out here into Belleville and up into Ashland. But Bucyrus is still on the edge of that. So they've extended the polygon. They let this part go because this part has quieted down. But they've extended the polygon out here into the Mansfield and Ashland areas because that's the direction that this cell is headed. So that's going to keep moving to the east and southeast over the next few hours. But yeah, Katrina, I hear you. So far, it's in a pattern where we're getting this every few days. And if we can break that pattern, that would be really, really helpful. So let's see. Kim wants to know anything for Coshocton. Yeah, it's going to take some time, but it's on. I mean, very few of us are going to miss out on this, quite honestly. So that's kind of where we are here. Let me zoom out a little bit. There's Coshocton. So as this moves down this direction and some of this, so here's the front up here. As that slides down this way during the night, it'll eventually get into Coshocton and Muskingum counties, but it'll take some time for that. Marcia wants to know, how much rain can we expect? I mean, in some places, we've already had more than an inch. So, in fact, let's look at... Let me clear some of this real quick. And let's put the precipitation numbers on here. So here's 12-hour precip, which doesn't look like much right now for central Ohio, but you get up here toward Cleveland. Look at that. So that's where you're talking about, this is where the flash flood warning is in effect, is right up here on the west side of Cleveland and out into Lorain and Elyria. Some of this out here has had close to 3 inches or more of rain. Wow. So by comparison, north central Ohio, down here in Bucyrus and Mansfield, we're doing okay. But more of this heavy rain is likely to come down our direction. So we'll be watching for that in the next few hours. But lightning and thunder for sure with this Look at that line coming through there. Upper's getting some pretty heavy rain right now. Not as heavy as what's coming through Galleon and Crestline, but more of that is happening there. Kelly says they had some heavy rain in Kenton. Yep, probably going to get some more of that. Northern Marion. Yeah, Melissa says you're getting some wind gusts there. I believe that because you're right here on the edge of this system. So see how this bows right here? So that whole thing, basically it's a whole series of thunderstorms kind of all linked together, but they all have outflows. So as it's racing forward, it's also some of the air from way up in the storm is coming down and coming out of the front of the storm, and that's what gives you those gust fronts, and that's what can generate those damaging winds. So yeah, I would be willing to bet it's probably going to get pretty strong there in Marion in the next few minutes. Coleman Reynoldsburg, yep, going to be for a little bit, but it's on the way, so make sure you're ready for that. We're all going to have to just stay weather aware through the rest of the night tonight. Tell you what we'll do, and we did this last time, so we'll do this again. I've got a loop ready to go so that you can sort of keep that going and you can watch how these are all moving through here. But we're going to keep an eye on this through the overnight. Oh, look at that. Crud. Look at that guy. This guy. So here's Lima right here. So this is coming through Delphos and on its way toward Lima. If that holds together, it'll get out here into Ada. But yeah, that's the way these are going to develop during the night tonight. They're along this front. They pick up some energy and boom, there they are. So give it some time. It's headed toward Columbus. It's going to be another couple of hours before it actually gets down here to the metro area. But it's on the way, and we will be tracking storms through the night tonight. I'll stick around through the night, and Sarah is in tomorrow. Buck is off. He's literally running through the Smokies. And so Sarah is in for Good Day Columbus, and she'll be in around this morning, early in the morning, so that we can keep tracking all of this through the overnight hours. Gerald, you do you. If you think Columbus is not in the crosshairs, good for you. I'm pretty sure we're going to get some storms. They may not be severe by the time they get to Columbus, but there may be an embedded cell that's in there. So tell you what, the rest of us will watch for some watches and warnings. You do you, and it'll all be good. So, all right, y'all. I will check in with you later, and we will keep tracking and see how this thing goes. See ya.